What's up, folks, and welcome to this week's episode of the Pilot Review Show. I am Captain Blade J52, and this week I am joined by my usual band of merry misfit screwballs. This week we have Neela Datan.
What up, Paul?
And our teacher of the Kirby variety.
Misfit screwballs? I object to that.
Well,
I fit perfectly in the screwballs.
Yeah, she's not entirely wrong on that end. But, sadly, we don't have an Artie with us this week, so we won't really have an RP corner tonight, but hopefully Artie should be back in action this next week. But, anyways, that's the only major change as far as the show is tonight. My connection should stay stable. If for whatever reason it does crash and everything, just letting y'all know ahead of time, I should be right back if God forbid that does happen. I'm hoping it doesn't, but wanted to give a little bit of a disclaimer ahead of time.
Yeah, Artie wanted me to let everybody know the engineer is working furiously on his mobile emitter, and he should be back next week.
He let the Packlid drive the ship again, didn't he?
He did.
Yeah, that's what happens when he lets the Packlids fly. They break things.
Yep.
But, anyways, got a few interesting things we do want to go over this week with y'all and everything. But, let's go ahead and get started. One of the big things we have is our Season 12 Reckoning Sector map. So we can see how things have evolved over time. Everything.
It's beautiful.
Definitely. Top we have the
extraordinary
first image from way back in the day, from where everything used to be, compared to what we have now, which is quite a bit more fleshed out and better off, I think. But
more stuff.
Anybody have any quick thoughts on this?
Wow,
nice
I
to
didn't
see
remember
where we were.
Sorry, go ahead.
It was just nice to see where we were and how far we've come.
It is, yeah, I forgot how little the sector map was when the game first started. I mean,
Absolutely.
yeah, it's huge now.
Most definitely. We can see just quite a bit of the amount of systems we've got. I don't know if it'll let me... Will it actually? Okay, I can actually pull this one up. So we can see just how big the system list is now compared to where it was before. You can see all these different systems dotted across the map. Everything, points of interest. So yeah, definitely quite a bit bigger and everything since the olden days.
And less loading screens.
Most definitely.
One smooth transition of flying around.
Absolutely. Only major transitions
Most
being
definitely.
between the quadrants or a major thing such as going to the Delta Quadrant, but overall pretty good. Everything. But
Three loading screens?
technically 4 if you count the Dyson spheres, but
Yeah.
close enough. But moving right along, we have our developer Q&A. This was actually shot a little bit ago on the 30th, but folks can still go on there. You can still see the stream. You can still see everything that went down and whatnot. But that's the biggest thing as far as this that we have. Any comments on the stream, you guys?
It was I did like it. It was a set of interviews, and it was very natural. It was conducted by our new community manager. It looks like they had a good time. We got a lot of in-depth questions about our new season 12. It was quite interesting, and I did enjoy watching the interviews. So I do encourage people to watch it, have some time, maybe get to know some of our devs, especially our new our new community manager who was running the interviews. Very fun.
Sweet. So, anyways, we'll have this in the links to the show notes for you guys as well, so you can check out the developer stream if you're kind of curious about everything that went down, maybe some of the questions that got asked and the responses. Definitely going to advise checking that out if you're curious. Should be some pretty good info in there. Next big announcement we have is the Tier 6 Cross-Faction Battlecruiser Bundle, which is actually coming to the consoles finally. Now this will be the...
It is there right now.
Okay,
as
it is there.
February 2nd.
Okay, so as of this Thursday then. So, you get the Arbiter, you get the... what's the one for the KDF side?
Karak.
The Karak, and... Oh, of course, I could just look down at the screen. And the Morrigu Heavy Warbird for the Romulan side. Now, the Morrigu being, of course, the Tier 6 version of the Mogai. But you can get them for 3,000 Zen a piece if you buy them individually, or you can buy all three of the non-ship or non-fleet ship variants for a 6,000 Zen pack. Pretty much what we have on PC and everything. Now, for the console guys, I will touch base on the bridge officer stations like we usually do. Now, for the Arbiter, you had an Ensign Tactical, a Lieutenant Commander Tactical / Intel, a Commander Engineering, a Lieutenant Science, and a Lieutenant Commander Universal. So this is a Intel-driven ship and can be very, very powerful. You have, for console mods, 4 Tactical, 5 Engineering, and 1 Science. Should be noted that whenever you go to the fleet ship, that I believe you actually pick up a second Science console, if I'm not mistaken.
Let me see.
People
You
I'm pretty
pick
sure.
up... yes, a second Science.
Okay, just wanted to make sure before I said something stupid. But, base turn rate 9 degrees, can load cannons, comes with the Universal Ablative Hazard Shielding console. So, very, very good ship all around. Then, the real strength from this ship actually comes from the trait that it gives you, which is the emergency weapon cycle. Basically, in a nutshell, what it does is whenever you activate the emergency power to weapons, then it will actually give a bit of increased firing cycle haste to your weapons. And a pretty sizable one at that.
It does a bit more than that. It also reduces the drain of firing your weapons, which is a big deal, because the less drain for firing your weapons, the harder your weapons will hit because you have more power. So it does haste and reduces weapon drain. And it is possible, if you have 2 copies of emergency power to weapons, that's the easiest way to do it, to have 100% uptime. Or have it up 100% of the time, all the time. Have it available so that you're always under emergency power to weapons, or this trait is always active.
Indeed.
Yeah.
So, definitely a very great trait. Even if you don't like the ship itself, it's definitely one to consider investing in for the trait alone. Now, for the base hull, you have 43,125 at 50, and an even 50,000 at level 60. Now, this is for the C-Store variant. This does not count the fleet version. Now, the other thing to keep in mind, if you're somebody that wants to play with the set bonuses, is you can equip the cloaking device found on the Tier 5 Dreadnought or the Tier 5 Escort retrofit, so that is one thing that you do have. But the fleet variant, pretty much the same overall stats, everything, 5-3 weapons layout, everything. And I see the old crew, outdated crew status back again.
It's copy and paste the blog, so obviously it's going to be back.
Yeah, fair point. But the main differences is you get a bit more of your base hull strength starting out, which can be pretty good. You will need a Tier 4 fleet shipyard in order to access the fleet variant. So, quite possibly might be a while before some of you guys get there on console. I don't really know how far along some of the console fleets are at the moment, but that's just me speculating and everything. Now, it should be noted for console players especially, and everything, and anybody that is curious, if you purchase the fleet ship, you will not get the trait and you will not get the console from the ship itself. In order to get the console and in order to get the trait, you have to have the C-Store variation first. Now that is, I mention this because it is a mistake I see a lot of people making, is they go straight for the fleet version, which you can do that, but if you do so, you're wasting the additional fleet modules, and you're spending 3 or 4 fleet modules that you didn't have to when you could just spend 1 module, and you're only getting the ship for 1 tune. So that is one big thing I did want to mention. It's essentially, for fleet ships, they're intended that you get the C-Store version first, and then upgrade to the fleet version later on for ships that you want to keep around. So, did want to touch base on that. Take a quick look at our Karak class battle cruiser. The pretty much same stats overall, I'm guessing. Actually, same exact stats, pretty much. So yeah, actually, yeah, pretty much same stats overall. So the only one that looks like it's a bit different is actually the Morrigu. You have a 37,950 base hull at level 50, 44,000 base hull at 60. The bridge officer stations are Lieutenant Tactical, Commander Tactical, Lieutenant Commander Engineering, Ensign Science, and Lieutenant Commander Universal / Intel. Then you get a 4-3 weapons layout with 5 tactical consoles, 3 engineering, and 2 science. Base turn of 14 degrees per second. This does have the Romulan battle cloak, so that is a very good thing. Then for the fleet version, you have 5 tactical consoles, 4 engineering, and 2 science. That being some of the major differences, and then the starting hull that you get is the other major difference. But overall, great ships, everything. Any of you guys have any comments on them?
Yeah, definitely great ships. They are very popular on the PC, not just for the trait, although the DPS crowd definitely feels that the trait is a must-have. But also, there are a lot of people that just like to fly the ships for the sake of flying the ships. They're definitely very, very, very nice ships.
Yeah, and I always hear a lot of people say about the Romulan ship. They fly it because it's basically an upgraded Mogai.
Yeah, definitely.
Now, I am kind of curious, Neela, have you been seeing a lot of these floating around on the console, or not so much yet, or?
I've seen a couple of the C-Store. Not that many. Basically, I think more console people are waiting for more stuff to come.
Okay.
But I am still seeing quite a bit of stuff. Quite a bit of the ships. More so the Arbiter than the other two.
Makes sense.
Since everyone's on
Yeah, it does.
Feds.
Yeah, I can see that. But anyways, we'll have this in the show notes for you guys so you can check out the blog for yourselves and see what all you're getting with the ships. Definitely highly recommended. Everything from us.
Yes.
You will not be disappointed with these.
I was going to say, in one more note, if you plan on trying out all 3 factions, then definitely buy the cross-faction bundle at 6,000 Zen, versus going, oh, I'll just buy it when I get up there because it'll cost you an extra 3,000 Zen that way.
Yes, unless you
Yeah.
grind still for Zen, then I could see doing that. But if you're spending money, do the 6,000.
Yeah. Do the 6K.
Yep. But definitely good stuff. Definitely some good information from Neela and Teacher there. But we'll have this in the notes for you guys. You'll be able to check out the announcements for yourselves and everything, and maybe see if these ships are right for you. But moving along to our next big thing, we have patch notes for the PC from the 31st. Not really a lot there. There's a few quality of life improvements, such as resolving a occasional crash that was going on in the ground portion of Signs and Portent. So definitely something there. Correcting the Wolf 359 issue for 23rd century captains, but
Which is a good thing because some people were doing the anniversary event on their 23rd century captains, and they couldn't do it.
absolutely.
They had to either wait for the next day, just hold on to that mission, and just wait for a fix.
It's, there's not really a lot there, but anything else in particular stand out to you guys?
Resolved an issue which was causing portions of the Zenkathi battle zone to not reset correctly and block progression after beating the final encounter for the first time on a map. So the Zenkathi battle zone's still acting up. Hopefully, though, they have it they have it set right this time.
Well,
seems like that's giving them a lot of trouble.
I was in there the other day, and it seemed to be fixed mostly. I didn't really see any
Because
issues. Oh, go ahead.
in the next patch notes, they fixed a little bit more with the battle zone.
Do we have the other? Okay.
We do.
Yeah.
It's just not there yet.
Well, since we're on patch notes, I guess we might as well tackle that one next.
Yep.
Everything, just
Alrighty.
get all of our patch notes in one big go for y'all. But we have some more patch notes. These actually came out this past Thursday and everything. Now, one thing before I do get into these, I will touch base on the Zenkathi thing a little bit more. That should have been fixed. I was in there not too recently, like I was saying, and I didn't notice any issues. The only issue that I really had whenever I went in there is there weren't really enough people for us to hold the zone. So we weren't really able to engage too much beyond just capping zones. But if y'all do see that going on still, definitely let us know. But anyways, for this week's patch notes on the 2nd, some of the big changes that we have are the new overflow bag rule changes. Now, you won't be able to loot new items into your bags if you have anything above the limit that they've placed for certain items, such as for the Admiralty system, or Admiralty, just to pick on Kirby. Then it's... See, there it is. There it is. Now, you can only have up to 50 Admiralty items in your bag, 50 duty officers, R&D systems, mission turn-ins, bank withdrawals, auction purchases, queue items, things like that. You can only accept 100 missions, auction postings, receiving new items in general. So, overall, a quality of life improvement in my opinion. But, again, that's just me. Now,
It seems... Now, see, I read that totally differently. It says players will not be able to complete the following actions.
okay.
So I read that as you won't be able to complete an Admiralty assignment if you have over 50 things in your overflow bag. You see how that, you won't be able to complete a duty officer thing. So I read that completely differently. But
I could have said it wrong too, but yeah.
Yeah. But I see this as Cryptic saying, keep your overflow bag empty.
Most definitely.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah.
Basically, how I've always seen an overflow bag in any game is it's there as a you forget to empty your inventory, or you forget you log in the next day and you forget your inventory is almost full. You go in and do something. Oh, oops! I have stuff in overflow bag.
Makes sense.
Yeah. I think there are some players, in fact, I know there's some players that are using the overflow bag as extra storage. So they'll fill up their inventory, and then they'll let their overflow bag fill up. And then they won't claim any of it, and then they'll empty out a little bit of their inventory, and they'll just leave stuff in their overflow bag. So they're using it for extra storage. God only knows why, because I could never do that.
Yeah.
Me either.
You need to. For me, I need to be able to have some sense of organization somehow.
Mm-hmm.
That's my OCD kicking in.
Yeah. And
Well, I keep telling him we need to call Hoarders 2410, but
oh god. And speaking of pack rats and everything, I don't think this tune is as bad. Okay, this tune's not as bad as some of my other ones. If y'all have ever seen my inventory or my bank on Cruzan, I think I've shown Neela a screenshot or two. And yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Like I say, I couldn't imagine filling all of this up and still needing space. I couldn't do it.
I know, right? It's like I just can't. I don't know. I just can't. I get like freaked out when my inventory gets full. If it ever gets full. I usually sell it all off long before then.
Absolutely. Now the overflow bag is the big change that we did want to kind of go over with you guys a little bit. The other big thing Neela was mentioning earlier is the changes to the Kathy Battle Zone to try to resolve some of the stuff going on in there, such as the King of the Hill not resetting, or the issue that prevented the reward of the protomatter micro-containers after the boss fight phase, which definitely a big issue if you're trying to farm out anything from the new rep. But, and the other big one for me that stood out is Klingon Scout Force is once again available. So, if you're one of those weirdos like me that love to run that mission, you're finally able to do so again.
Mm-hmm.
But
that's one of my favorite missions.
Any particular notes for you guys that out of this stands out?
Klingon Scout Force available again?
Works for me.
Yeah, there was something. I can't remember where it was, so
Lucari reputation. Oh, structural analysis. So, structural analysis was acting kind of funky. So, the tooltip, or issue caused the tooltip to indicate it scaled upwards. With Control X, it doesn't. Duration has been increased by 50% at all ranks. It should be triggering from the debuff of the secondary deflector proc when it's spread, and it will cause the amount of the debuff to properly scale now with aux power distributed targeting. So that's a big thing. It's now supposedly working correctly. We hope they got it fixed correctly. And it won't be treated as exotic damage anymore. So, there you go.
Okay.
That
There
ability's
it
working.
was.
Yeah. Yeah, all better than it was. That's quite a few things to be wrong with one ability.
Indeed.
It's just
Yeah, for
no
me,
judgment, just
they
saying.
resolved the low FPS issue in the gravity kills.
Oh, good.
That was a very issue for some people.
That queue is challenging enough without low FPS.
But But the one
Yeah.
major thing that stood out to me is, under known issues was there was no voiceover for Kumaka for the tier missions for Lucario Reputation.
Aww.
Yeah.
I was kind of sad.
I know, right?
And
Maybe they'll
Blade
get
knows
that
why.
fixed pretty quick.
And Blade knows why.
Yeah.
Oh. Somebody have a crush.
He does, I believe.
Yeah. Yeah.
Can't say that I blame him, though. I can't.
It's okay.
But we'll have the patch notes for PC, everything, and the notes for you guys, so you can take a look at these and everything. But moving along to our next big article thingamabob, we have the Dilithium Weekend, which that title is not entirely accurate and should actually read as Dilithium Week. From Thursday, February the 2nd until Thursday, February the 9th, we have our bonus Dilithium ore week. If you go to the Asteroid Mine or the Fleet Dilithium Mine, you get double the bonus. If anywhere else in the game, it is a 50% bonus to lithium ore. Now, this does exclude event reputation projects and things of that nature, but overall, still quite a bit of dilithium to be made and everything, especially from the Dyson Ground Battle Zone. Highly recommend that, by the way. But quick thoughts from the rest of our panel?
Just to put it out there, it doesn't say it in writing here, but that does also exclude the 10 out of 10 tour of duty for the KDF Admiralty as well. So you're not going to get extra things, extra dilithium from the 10 out of 10 tour of duty KDF Admiralty.
Only
At least
unless you
nobody
crit.
I know of has. So, there you
And
go.
another note, this is for PC. It's not on console.
Yes.
Yep, so sorry console players, y'all don't get this one.
Even
But-
though we just had one like a couple weeks ago, so.
Yeah. But you do get
Yeah.
some new ships, so hey, that's something, you know. Kind of balances out, I guess, a little.
New ships, yay!
But that's one of the big things going on. This is still active at the time that we filmed this particular episode. But definitely get your dilithium farming on. Get all your dill going at once. All that good stuff. Buy some Zen. Buy some keys. Level some gear. Whatever the heck you do with your dilithium. But now it's definitely the time to go out and get it.
Yep.
But next big one we have is the 50 years of Star Trek art. I didn't go over this one too much myself, but any thoughts from you guys?
Looks very interesting.
So just to throw it out there for anyone that likes to see different artwork, not specifically game related, just to show off what people can actually do with the genre of Star Trek.
I definitely got a kick out of the crazy looking quark down there at the bottom.
The second one, yeah.
Yeah.
The lower piece of artwork. Let's see, what do they got in there? They got Undine, Jem'Hadar, they have a Vorta.
Have a board.
Looks like they got Morn
They
in
have
there.
looks like a Zindi.
Do we say
Is
Undine?
that Morn
Yep, that's more.
in the bottom right corner? Okay.
That is more.
Looks like they got a
Salt vampires.
Orion slave girl's arm there. The hints of a Tholian.
Breen.
Definitely the crazy quark. A Borg.
Q.
I'm
Obviously.
trying to think what else they got. Okay, they got one of the benzites. That's what it was.
Then
Almost forgot what it was.
what were those species in Toss that had the big brains? Yeah, that one.
Oh. Nope, don't remember. It'll come to me. Yeah, I see Q. There's quite a few here.
Mm-hmm.
So see if you can find some that we missed.
If you click on it, Chris, you will get a bigger image.
Okay, so let's. Okay, I totally did not know that. So yeah, quite a bit more to this image than what I originally thought. See a Cardassian, a Romulan. Good lord. Riemann and Dorian.
It's taken a while.
They have a Horta.
To load.
Horta.
Oh, wow.
Did we say Asona?
Oh, yeah, definitely. Klingon, front and center. Vulcan. Yep, and Dorian. Oh,
What looks
I don't
like a
remember
poodle?
the name of that.
A poodle.
Oh, it's like a little dog thing. I don't remember where it's from. It's from the episode where Kirk gets separated into good Kirk and bad Kirk.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, see?
So whatever that little dog
You
thing
feel
is.
me? You feel me? You feel me?
They have the crystalline entity in the background.
That dog was a red shirt.
Eh.
It died in the episode. Yep, crystalline entity. Mugato. Tellarite. There's a heck of a lot.
Yeah, so definitely quite a bit of dudes. Everything. Whatnot.
And
We'll
chicks.
probably be here all night if we don't move on to the next big thing.
Yes,
But,
we will.
so-
I found Odo.
Sweet.
Sorry.
Hang on. Before we move on.
Yeah, say
at
it
the-
I was excited.
Then go ahead, Neela.
Before we move on, February 3rd, at the where they held it, the exhibit opened. The 18th of February is the Starships of Star Trek. That has Thomas Perone, lead starship artist for Star Trek Online, will be presenting a discussion of the closing night festivities, which is an adults-only event.
Nice.
Interesting.
And this is at the Shabbat Space Center?
Shabbat
don't know if
Space and Science Center
Okay.
in Oakland, California.
Nice.
So if anyone's near Oakland, California, no, go ahead, stop by.
Most
Yes, definitely.
Yeah, let us know, because I'm curious if we actually missed any of these. I thought we got pretty much all of them. But if there's any that
We missed a few.
Yeah. So if there's any that we missed, definitely let us know which ones we missed, because I'm kind of curious myself. But finally, moving along to our next big thing, or we'll be here all night, is the 20% services sale that is, I believe, still going on at the moment. This will be
Yes.
going on until February the 6th, so Monday. It is 20% off of all of the services that are listed below. So, very healthy selection of services. Everything. We have our character slots, our account shared bank slots, regular banks, bridge officers, captain rename and retrain, character slots. Then you have the various sizes of duty officer increases, either the 100 or the 25.
In the
Inventory
100,
slots.
you are limited to 4.
Yes. And you have the inventory slots for 12 of those, 2 outfit slots, 10 ship loadouts, then 2 ship slots, and the energy credit cap increase. So, pretty healthy selection there. Now, one thing I will mention, because it actually happened to me recently, there is a maximum amount of ship slots you can have on a tune. I totally did not know that.
Yes.
Yes, there is.
And in case anybody is wondering, it is 60 slots. So you can have up to 60 active starships, which does include your shuttle, in order to have on one singular tune. Never thought I'd see that happen, but apparently I hit the limit. So
Yep. There are also a maximum number of duty officer roster slots, maximum number of inventory slots, maximum number of bank slots, and account bank slots. I believe there's also a maximum number of character slots, which I believe is 54. Orangitis would know better. But the big thing I wanted to say is if you are free to play, definitely make sure you get that energy credit cap increase. That's probably going to be the best the best Zen that you spend in this game.
Mm-hmm.
Get that energy cap increase, and followed by the account shared bank slots.
most definitely.
Those two definitely, if you're free to play, those two, top of your list, get them.
And if you guys didn't figure it out, since it's a limit of 4 duty officer slots, max of 400.
500, because you get 100 automatically already.
Oh, I wasn't counting the
Yeah.
100 that you miss automatically.
But yeah.
Yep.
One thing I would mention as well is, even if you are free to play and you normally don't spend money on the game, the energy credit cap increase is the one purchase I would say would be mandatory with the game. It's,
Yes.
What is it,
Yeah,
1,000 Zen?
isn't it like a $5?
$5?
It's
or-
500 Zen normally.
Okay.
Right now it would be a 20% discount. So, but
It's
it
like
takes
it's
off.
like a $5 purchase.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
definitely well worth it. I figure $5 to be able to hold a billion EC a character versus 10 million, definitely a huge upgrade there. But
Yes.
that is definitely the one thing we will encourage you guys to invest in, even if you don't touch anything else as far as the services go. That is one that is definitely
And-
mandatory if you want to succeed in the game.
And the thing is, even if you don't want to spend real money, you can go and grind out the 500 EC for that. Or 500, I keep saying EC.
Zen.
Because I'm looking at it and say EC. The 500 Zen for that by using dilithium and trading it over. So even if, you have to grind it out, it's not that hard to grind out 500 Zen. So do that and get that energy cap increase as soon as possible. That is the one thing I will tell somebody they really need to do.
Yeah. Now, it may suck as far as time goes to get it, but as far as grinding the dilithium itself out, once you get a spot going, you get your rhythm going, it shouldn't take too much effort as far as that goes. But definitely something we did want to mention. But our next big thing we have is the Of Signs and Portents Week 2 rewards. Now this week we also have I think we got the engines this week.
Yes, we did.
This also shows the set bonuses that you can get of the Braden Particle, or the Braden Resonance Technologies. The Braden Particle Detection 2-piece gives a increase to perception and bonus to aux power that scales with your current aux power levels. Then the 3-piece bonus is an increase to engine power, impulse expertise, and reduces the cooldown of your transwarp. Definitely handy if you're like me and you warp everywhere. Then there's the 4-piece, which you can only get if you obtain the ship itself from the anniversary event. It decreases the lockout duration of shield loss safeties, a passively triggered buff on the shield, and increases the effectiveness of micropulse overcharge, and active power on the engine. So, very well something you're going to want to look into. Definitely a good set so far. Then
just that
okay.
2-piece set made the science hops in me squeal a little bit.
Yeah.
Can't really says that I blame him there. But definitely something you're going to want to look into. The other big thing as well, once you complete the episode, each week you'll get a choice box. You'll either have the choice of a universal tech upgrade that you can get, or one free spec point. And I personally always go for the spec point because I'm a weirdo. But
I go for it too, so...
So do I.
well, I guess we're somewhat normal then, maybe.
Normal,
We're
what
all
is that?
weirdos.
But yeah.
I think we're all weirdos.
Yeah, I can agree with that. But yeah, definitely advise checking out the episode. It's not a bad little episode and everything. It definitely opens the door to some questions and everything. I don't want to say too much because I don't want to spoil anything for anybody that's not checked it out yet. But it definitely raised a few questions as well as answered a few. So definitely check that out.
This is true.
But our next big thing is our K-13 fleet holding. This is another special project that we have. Now, this one is the 8th in the set. It's going to be running from the 2nd, which was this past Thursday, until the 16th. And this one will unlock some ships that are going to patrol around K-13 space to protect it and everything.
Yes, protect it from the asteroids?
Yes.
Definitely needed. Not that I've gotten hit by a couple or anything. Okay, maybe a little.
You speak like you did.
Well,
He
okay,
did.
maybe a little. But yeah, for
He did.
my inner space Barbie folks out there, you're definitely going to want to check into this, if nothing else but for the RP factor. Very, very cool to see some ships floating around your space. That way it doesn't look so dreary and dead, in my personal opinion. But the big thing we will mention, I know we mention this pretty much every time a project like this comes along, but if you are unable to complete this project before it goes away, the only thing that matters is if you had it slotted. Even if it's the next project to take effect after you clear the current one out, you will still be able to complete the project. All it cares about is that it was slotted. Now,
Yep.
we do like to mention that because that is a question that we get quite a bit and everything. So we do want to touch base on that as well. But any final thoughts on this before we move on to our next thing?
I think it's interesting that in the artwork it shows a 23rd century vessel, the USS Ranger, patrolling. So are they going to time warp some 23rd century vessels to patrol our base?
That's a very good question, actually.
That is.
That's, I hadn't thought of that.
I'm just full of them tonight. And my husband says I'm full of it too.
Yeah, he would. Leave it to Poe to throw you under the bus like that.
Yep. I told him shut up.
But our next big thing that we have is actually our budget build. Now, this is one that actually came from a viewer request, and what they had requested was a Recon Vesta mid-range budget, and they did have the stipulation of the reputations being maxed out and the Plasmonic Leech already having been purchased. So let's go ahead and take a look at what we've got this week for our viewer there. Now,
He actually gave us quite a big budget to work with.
actually did, yeah. Now,
Yeah.
this is actually a bit of a collaboration between myself and TeacherKirby and everything. Now, the person did specify that they wanted to be able to deal some damage. They didn't really tell us how they wanted to deal damage, so we kind of rolled with the abilities of the ship and built up from there. Now, our mid-range budgets, we assumed that we have 30 million energy credits to work with as a spending limit. We also assume that you have enough dilithium to take a single item up to Mark 14 Epic quality. Everything else after that must be free or as dirt cheap as absolutely possible. But for our weapons and everything, we decided to go with a base Polaron build and everything to kind of take advantage of some draining abilities. But on the front of the ship, we have the Advanced Thoron-Infused Polaron Beam Array. This comes from the Reputation. I believe this one is the Delta Rep, if I'm not mistaken. Then we have, as well...
The Thoron-Infused, yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so Delta Reputation for the Thoron Beam. Now, unlike a regular Polaron, this one will deal some radiation damage. So, definitely a nice little kick in the pants to the enemy. Then the other beam array we have on the front of the ship is the Chronometric Polaron Beam Array. This comes from the Time and Tide mission. And then we also have our Particle Emission Plasma Torpedo. Everything. This is one item that we did purchase from the exchange. I believe this one ran about $5 million. I've actually got the total cost for you guys in the notes for whenever we get to that point. But for the rest of our weapons, we have one Dominion Polaron beam on the back. This comes from the Boldly They Rode mission. We also have the Neutronic Torpedo Launcher. This, I believe, also is the Delta Reputation.
Yes.
And then we have our Chronometric Polaron Beam Array. This is the Omnidirectional Beam, which is the counterpart to the standard beam array version of it. Also comes from the Time and Tide mission, as does one of our tactical consoles. For our shields, our engines, our warp core, now some of these items are things that you guys have seen before. We have two pieces of the Soul Defense set. We went with the Soul Defense shields and the Soul Defense engines, which come from the Midnight mission. We also have our Temporal Phase Overcharged Warp Core for the capacitor that it gives. This comes from the Butterfly mission. If you were here for the Delta recruitment event, you're probably familiar with a little device known as the Temporal Negotiator. This gives us the same effect, except in the form of a warp core capacitor. For our deflector, we decided to go with the Solanae deflector. This comes from the Step Between Stars mission. Now, the item we took up to epic quality was actually a secondary deflector, deteriorating, that we picked up from the exchange. It originally started at Mark II, and we took it all the way up to epic. Now, we did have a little thing that we specified in the notes as to what we hope it goes to, but we can't guarantee that it's actually going to flip to that because there is the bit of RNG involved. But that's our basic weapons and our shields, engines, and everything. We'll explain a little bit more once we get to the notes on the deflector. But as far as our devices go, there's a couple of good ones that we do like to use between me and Kirby. We have the Subspace Field Modulator, which comes from the Skirmish mission, which is a nice little defensive ability whenever you need it. Then we also have the Exotic Particle Flood Batteries. Very good for whenever you're dropping your science nuke on somebody. For our engineering console, we have consoles, I should say. We have a Conductive RCS Accelerator at Mark 12 with the Control X mod on it. And then the Plasmonic Leech, which was requested as part of the build. Now the Leech itself, we assumed it didn't cost anything because it was already owned. Now for our science consoles, we went with 4 of the restorative particle focusers from the science lab. And these are with the EPG and Control X modifiers. And then we did decide to go with a singular threat nullifier. This is from the Embassy, also with the EPG mod. Now the good thing to note about the restorative particle focusers is that as you're throwing your healing abilities, these will activate themselves, and that'll give you some bonuses that way.
Give you some bonus damage.
Yes.
As it rolls a chance to give you plus all damage. It's 6%, I believe, and so if you can keep that rolling, then yeah, it can get quite nice.
But for our tactical consoles and everything, we do have our third piece of the Chronometric Polaron set that came from the Time and Tide mission, so you will need to run that 3 times to get all the pieces from the set. Now, what is so great about the Chronometric Polaron set is it gives you access to the 3-set bonus, which is, I believe it's 17% energy damage and about 25% exotic.
Sounds
Somewhere
right.
around. It's pretty close to those numbers. I might be just a little bit off on the exact numbers, but roughly around that range. So very good for boosting your damage, and also a nice little kick in the pants science-wise. Now we do have a Bioneural Gel Pack. This is the final piece that allows us to use the Isokinetic Cannon, which is a nice little ability that bypasses their shields and goes straight to the hull. Now,
And it is also boosted by exotic particle generators, which, as you'll notice from everything else, we've been boosting the bejesus out of exotic particle generators.
Indeed. And the gel pack itself, even if you discard the isokinetic effect, it's still not a bad little console to have in and of itself, because it does give a bit of a cooldown reduction on your bridge officers, and is a universal console, so you can put it pretty much anywhere you want. So, even on its own, not a bad little console to have. For our final 2 tactical consoles, we have the Universal Constriction Anchor, and also the Delphic Tear. These boost our exotic damage by a pretty sizable amount. The Delphic Tear being a nice little offensive console, and the Constriction Anchor being a nice little control effect. So, very nice consoles to have, especially in this instance. Now, I see that we left the hangar blank, everything. Typically, I like to assume that you're going to use the fighters that come with the ship, or you already have something in mind for that effect. So, I consider them personal preference. I'm not sure about Kirby, but
Yeah.
that's usually the assumption that I work on. But as far as the weapons, the setup, everything, you've got a pretty decent way you can engage the enemy, either through just your weapons or purely your science powers. Now, we'll take a quick look at our skills, because some of the bridge officer powers we might want to touch base on a little bit more.
Okay.
Now, for our space skills and everything, you can kind of see what we're working with here. Our lieutenant skills and our lieutenant commander. Now, we did put a few points into the torpedo skills to make use of our neutronic and our pep torps. Everything, not something we usually do, but in this case, we did make the exception. You can see we've maxed out our control abilities and did make sure to pick up control amplification. Didn't really use the drain infection ability. Now we did...
The reason for the control amplification, it acts as a debuff, basically an extra kick in the pants to your enemies. Whenever you have your enemies affected by a control effect, in other words, a gravity well, something like that, it debuffs them. It gives them some extra, it takes away some of their damage resistance. I want to make sure I said that right. So control amplification, if you're going to be running something like a gravity well boat, which is basically what we put this as, it's going to be a nice thing to have.
Very much so, because that's going to throw out a debuff all around the board that not only you benefit from, but your team benefits from as well. So
Yes.
This is definitely not an ability to sneeze at all. Now, we did max out the ablative hull plating and pick up all of that, because if you're throwing around a lot of science abilities and things of this nature, you're probably going to be cranking out a lot of threat once you get going, and especially if the fight lasts long enough.
Yeah, definitely.
Then we did throw some stuff in the shield hardening as well to buff his shields a little bit. We've got our, I believe these are the weapon amplification skills, everything.
Yes.
But you can kind of see how we've got the commander skills set up as well. And then our captain and admiral skills. Now, because this is a EPG boat, essentially, we did want to make sure that we maxed out our exotic particle generators, and we did add in some extra power with these engineering skills here. But, can kind of see how we've got our skill points set up. Now, we didn't really go for an ultimate ability on this and everything for this build. You could use one here. We just decided not to go that route this time around. But if you're somebody that likes the ultimates, they're definitely something to consider in this case.
With a more exotic build, a lot of people will go for the science ultimate. It can be a little tricky because if you're using the skill from the science crafting particle manipulation, that gives you a heck of a lot of crit chance on your science abilities, like your grav well, your destabilized resonance beam. So it can be a little tricky because the science ultimate will stick that at 50%, rather than having it be at 85, 86, 90%. So you have to be kind of careful and throw out your gravity wells during the time when probability manipulation is not active, and then activate your probability manipulation so that your gravity wells and your exotic abilities get the benefit of particle manipulation. Try saying that 5 times fast.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. So it can be a little tricky. It takes a bit of getting used to. So we didn't want to really put our pilot through that, as it were.
Now, once he gets to the higher end and everything, if he does decide to go, to a higher damage build than this, eventually he might decide to experiment with the ultimate abilities. We don't know. But we wanted to make sure we didn't overload him, as Teacher was saying, because that's...
Right.
We can give out high-end builds all day long. We can give pretty much whatever kind of build you want us to do. But we want to make sure you understand why we're doing things the way that we are. Because we can give you information, but if you're not understanding the why behind the setup, then we're not really helping you that much.
Yep.
Now, for our specializations, we decided to go with a Temp Ops primary and Strategist secondary, mainly due to some of the buffs that you get from the Temporal Operative that work well with some of our science builds, as well as the Strategist for some of the damage boosting abilities, and perhaps even survival if the situation demands it.
Yes, definitely.
But that's our skills, our specializations. Let's take a quick look at our Bridge Officer powers, and we can go to our traits. Everything. Now, for our Bridge Officer powers, as far as the ship itself goes, we did try to tailor the build towards what the ship itself actually has. Now, the stations on the ship are a Lieutenant Commander Universal, an Ensign Universal, Lieutenant Tactical, Lieutenant Engineering, and a Commander Science. Now, the engineering abilities, I think, are the easiest to explain, so I suppose we should start there. For the Ensign Universal, we slotted with an Engineer, and we gave him the Emergency Power to Shields ability as a nice little defensive thing. Now, we didn't want the ship to be too squish, and that was one of the things that I did raise when we were building this, is I was concerned that it was going to get too squishy and turn him into too much of a glass cannon, so we did want to make sure he had some defensive ability as well. Now, the other abilities we have for engineering are the Engineering Team 1. This gives us some hull healing as well as purges certain engineering debuffs. And then we have the Aux to Structural ability, which is free temporary hit points as well as a slight bit of healing. And this is an ability that he can pretty much set up to go off with his regular rotation if he wants to, so something he can maintain with very little downtime at all.
So the Aux to Structural Integrity, I want to touch on that a little bit. It's only a 15-second cooldown, and one of the reasons that Darkblade and I considered it is because of the consoles from the Crenham Research Lab. Those consoles require a heal And the more often you can shut off a heal, or you can activate a heal, send out one, the more often they're going to activate and the more chance they have of proccing that damage boost. So this little heal, you set this off in your rotation, your constant rotation. Every 15 seconds you're getting a chance for that damage boost. Not only that, you're getting a buff for yourself, a resistance buff, and your hit points and a heal over time. So all around good things for you, and so it's a really nice thing to have and to keep hitting. It's got a short cooldown, which I cannot stress enough, and gives you some nice things.
Absolutely. You're looking at, if I'm remembering my math right, like I said, about a 5-second downtime overall.
Yes.
So very minimal at all. But
yeah, it's 10-second activation time, 15-second cooldown.
Yep, so definitely very nice
Yeah.
there. And the other thing as well, we should mention that since it is being used in part, yes, as a defensive ability, you could technically consider this as an offensive or defensive skill depending on the situation. So, as far as tactical abilities, not really a lot to explain, honestly. We have a beam fire at will 1, which allows him to smack some stuff with his beams. And we also have a torpedo spread 2 to take advantage of the torpedoes that he has on the ship. He can either spread a nasty cloud of plasma around with the pep torp, or spread some good power drain, shutdown, and just general FU to the enemy with the neutronic torp.
Yes, and with that particle emission plasma torp, this is one of the reasons that we wanted the torp spread. With the high EPG, or exotic particle density he's got, that cloud that comes from that is going to be nasty, and you're going to get the best cloud from having a torp spread. And the bigger the torp spread, the better the cloud. So
Indeed.
yeah, definitely good thing to have. That's why we put the torp spread 2 over the torp spread 1. That's why we put them this way.
Yep. Now, I suppose we should touch base on our instant abilities really quick, because I think those are going to be easiest to explain before we get into the actual core damage abilities we selected.
Yeah.
Now, for some healing abilities, because again, we didn't want them to be too squish, and we did want them to have more of a chance to set off the Crinum Lab consoles than just the Oxtasif. So we did have a Hazard Emitters 1, because it is a very good heal over time ability, gives them some damage resist rating as well, and purges certain debuffs such as plasma fires and similar such abilities.
Yep, definitely. And then of course the...
Oh, go ahead.
Go ahead. I was going to say, and then of course we have the Science Team 1, which is a good shield healing ability, and cleanses off some other things that hazard emitters tends to miss.
Absolutely. And one major one that it will clear is the subnucleonic effects. So if you're going up against Iconians that love to throw out that AoE subnucleonic wave, that is a very pesky ability that this will take care of, as far as the debuff goes.
Yes, very pesky.
And I do see a thing in the comments section out there talking about a Tetrion drain tank built on an APU cruiser. I'll have to see what I can do with that.
Neela.
Well, that's from Kirby's groupie.
Oh. That's from Steve.
Yeah, that's not surprising. But we'll have to see what I can do with that at some point. But, moving on to our damage abilities, one thing we did have as well is a Feedback Pulse 1, because, let's be honest, if you're throwing around a lot of abilities like this and everything, they are going to tend to be higher damage abilities and everything, and since you're probably going to be getting shot at some point anyway, especially if you don't have a tank in the run, then this is actually not a bad ability to have, because, well, they can essentially kill themselves. And
yep.
that's...
The thing
Oh,
The thing to remember with a lot of these science abilities, especially Gravwell and Subspace Vortex, which, if you're looking, you've noticed those are part of our build, is that they're very high threat generating. You're going to have these guys going, oh my god, he's right on top of us, kill him! Okay, pretty much that's about what's going to happen to everything around you. So you're going to have everything around you going, get him, get him! And that's about when you should put your feedback pulse on. So
Absolutely.
basically, yeah.
Now, as far
So you know
as
you're going to have that anyway, use it.
Absolutely. Now,
Okay.
as far as our abilities go and everything, the destabilizing resonance beams, those are actually from one of the missions that you can get. So this is a free ability you can pick up. The subspace vortex you will need to pick up from the infinity box or from the exchange. We did take the cost of the manuals into account whenever we
Yes.
did the subspace vortex. And for the gravity well 3, you will need to pick up from a science officer or purchase it off of the exchange, but it's usually not too terribly much.
Here's a hint. Neela Exel has a Gravity Well 3.
Indeed. So, if you're running
Yeah.
your Dyson reputation, you pick up your Voth Science Officer, then you're definitely good to go in that aspect. So you can technically get this ability for free as well.
Yes.
But as far as our main abilities, obviously, one of our thoughts behind it is you Gravwall things together, you smack them with a Pep Torp, you throw your Subspace Vortex on top of them, and then you smack them with a Destabilizing Resonance Pulse on top of that for a nice little science nuke. So
The way I like to do it is I throw out my Gravity Well. I hit, once everything's in, I hit them with the Destabilizing Resonance Beam because that gets everything all nice and debuffed. And then I throw out my Subspace Vortex. And then right as the Gravity Well is ending, that's when I nuke them with the Pep. Because then they're going to go flying through the cloud.
definitely some good stuff
Yes.
as far as what we have here. Like I say, we wanted to take advantage of what the ship had. There wasn't really a stipulation on how he wanted to deal damage. He just wanted to do it. So
Yeah.
we're just thinking, okay, science ship, what can we do with science ship? And kind of put our two
Yeah.
brains together, and this is what we come up with. Now, we do want to touch base on the traits and everything. Then we'll take a look at some of the costs that we had in the notes. As far as our traits go, one of the money traits that we did have was the Ablative Shell trait. This is one you've seen me use in pretty much all of my tank builds, just about it. It is a very nice defensive trait, some temporary damage resist, as well as a bit of a heal over time effect. Can occur every so often. And we also have the Psychological Warfare trait, which improves our control abilities.
By about 20%, if I remember rightly. It's definitely, if you're going to do a Gravwell or anything with control, you should be running Psychological Warfare. It's definitely a very nice trait to have.
Then another trait that we did have is the Invasive Control Programming. Whenever you activate a control effect on a foe, you add a random system offline effect. So, potentially, as Teacher was saying, when she goes to throw out her Pep Torp, if she's already activated her ability, it's a possibility that their shields could be offline when the torpedo impacts for a bit more damage.
Yep.
So it could
It's so nice.
get pretty nasty if the right subsystem gets disabled at the right time.
Yeah.
Now, as far as
It's
Ablative
just
Shell
gravy.
and Invasive Control and Psychological Warfare goes, those will need to be purchased from the exchange or acquired through the Infinity Lockbox. So, very good traits to have. Then we have our Beam Barrage, which comes from the Beam R&D Crafting School, which gives us a bit of beam weapon damage, everything. And we have our Particle Manipulator. This is actually one of the traits that Kirby was talking about a minute ago.
Yes. So this one gives you your exotic abilities extra crit chance based on how much, is it EPG? Yeah, based on how much EPG you have. Once you get up to a certain amount of EPG, it stops counting. But it gives a crit chance and crit severity based on that up to, I forget how much. But you can get your crit chance and crit severity pretty darn high. I'll have to look at some numbers. But I've seen them as high as 90% if done right on gravity wells and other things.
Yep. Now, we do assume that as far as using the R&D traits go, we usually assume that you're going to, if we do decide to use a R&D trait, we do assume that you're going to level 1, maybe 2 of the schools as you level up. In this case, the schools that you would have chosen would have been the beams and the science schools in order to level. Now, the final traits that we have are the beam training, which is free beam weapon damage. Then we also have the projectile training for free torp damage. We also have the fleet coordinator, which is free damage based on the size of the party that you're in. And finally, we have the grace under fire. Now, this was originally built on an engineer, as far as the build we threw together, so you can adapt this to either a tactical or a science officer. For the career-specific trait, you would just swap Grace Under Fire out for whichever one applies to you specifically. Then, I see we missed the Starship traits.
We did.
So, bit of a brain fart on our end, but as far as Starship traits goes, one thing that I would say to use would be the unconventional tactics, since you're going to be leveling strategist anyway.
Definitely.
And then the other trait, I cannot for the life of me remember what the temp ops trait is, but since you're already going to have it anyway, might as well slap it on there. That is, actually, let me look in game. And
is it critical system? No.
That would be, maybe it'll tell me on the thing here. Nonlinear progression.
There we go.
So it's a nice little trait, since you're not really going to have a lot of Starship traits to work with anyway. You might as well roll with it, because something in the slot's better than nothing, really. Everything in that instance.
Yep.
But
and then, what is it? The best defense comes from
the house peg mission. So yep, definitely that.
Yes.
But let me actually go ahead and slot these before I forget, like a dingus. Which I still can't believe we did that.
And then, assuming you went for the winter event ship, we could put in the improved feedback pulse.
Where is... There's linear progression. Put the ones on there that I can remember right quick. I really can't believe we did that. Actually, I take that back.
I know, right? What is wrong with us?
I think we got in a hurry the other day and just weren't thinking.
Most likely.
At least I wasn't thinking. I mean...
Yep.
Didn't pass it up in the list. Yeah,
alright.
Passed it up.
So, while he's doing that, we can look at the space reputation. So, we did pretty standard. We did advanced targeting systems. This gives a little bit of crit severity in space combat. That's crit severity to everything, both your beams, your torps, and exotic damage abilities. And that gives 16% crit severity. Then we have, of course, precision, which gives 4% crit chance, and that is to everything. So this gives quite a bit. This is the dynamic duo pair that everybody goes for. And then to top out the trio, we did put in the auxiliary power configuration offense that is from the Nukara rep. You get that at tier 4, and that gives you a boost to your offense in this case, based on the level of your auxiliary power. Okay, so we like this because it gives you extra go boom for the enemies. And then finally, the last one, which gives us 5% exotic damage boost, was Particle Generator Amplifier. And this comes from Iconian Rep.
Then
So, a few nice things. Good.
I was going to say, for active reputations, kind of basic as far as those go. We did have the Refracting Tetrion Cascade, because it is a nice little ability to have. We have our Biomolecular Shield Generator. This is the green sphere that pops up in space people use. It will give some shield regen as well as a 22% damage reduction to shields, which will stack with abilities such as the Rally Point and similar effects. We have our Anti-Time Singularity, which creates a bubble that shrinks down eventually and fully dissipates, and will do some nasty things to the enemy, damage as well as debuff. Then we have our Quantum Singularity Manipulation, which applies a temporary cloak effect as well as a boost to all science powers. Now, a combination that you can actually do with the build that we've set our pilot up with is you can throw your Particle Flood batteries, you can throw your Chronometric Set ability from Polar on, then you can try to proc your damage consoles, follow up with your Quantum Singularity Manipulation, drop out a monster Gravity Well and a monster Anti-Time once everything is stacked up, and pretty much proceed to hand them their rear end on a silver platter.
Yes.
At that point.
And don't forget to throw out your isokinetic cannon there.
Most definitely. Yeah.
Yes.
So if you're throwing around those kind of abilities anyway, why not go for broke and just go for a full-on science nuke at that point? So definitely some good abilities we had there.
That would be when you want to destroy the things in front of you with extreme prejudice.
Indeed.
This is what you do.
Now, we did put everything in the notes so you can see kind of where everything comes from. Everything, which I'll have to update the notes to include the traits and everything, because brain fart. But you can kind of see where everything comes from. You can see our total cost and everything, particle emission torps, the constriction anchors. You can see the EC cost. I did take into account the fleet credits and dilithium costs as well. Now, one note that we did want to mention is the shields mod on the deflector. We assume it's going to be a shield healing ability. That's what we want it to go to on the secondary deflector whenever it flips to epic. If not, it can still be pretty good.
The epic mod is shield heal / EPG. We would like the third mod on ultra rare to be an EPG, but it might not, so just saying.
Now, as far as our budget goes, we did scrape the bottom of the barrel as far as our EC goes, and we used 29,700,000 of our 30 million, so only 300,000 EC left. Then we have 57,500 dilithium invested into the build, as well as 32,500 fleet credits. Now, that may seem like a lot of dilithium, and kind of can be, but the total build will take around, as far as to build the items themselves, assuming you have the reputation already maxed, you're looking at about 8 days to build, due to the dilithium refinement cost of everything involved. Otherwise, you could potentially, assuming that you had everything, get this in a day. So that's pretty much what we have for a budget build. Any final thoughts, teacher?
No. I think we explained it well.
Yep. Now, like we say, if you guys have a particular ship that you want us to do a budget build on, feel free to let us know and say, hey, this is the type of build that I'm looking for. This is my budget and everything, and we'll try to see what we can come up with for you and everything. And if we have to, we'll put our brains together and see if we can't make a couple of halves of a whole idiot or something. But,
more or less, always 2 halves of a whole idiot.
yeah, pretty much.
Yeah.
But before you get onto the Buggy corner,
Okay.
one thing I did want to throw out there for any console players. So, yes, we will get the anniversary. It was an error on their part for it to be on the calendar. As soon as we start seeing blogs about a ship or what the how we'll get the event currency is, be patient. It will show up.
It's absolutely a very good thing from Neela there and whatnot, but we are keeping an eye on it for our console players out there. We don't want y'all to think we forgot about you guys, nor does Cryptic want y'all to think they forgot about you as far as the anniversary goes. But you guys will get an anniversary event as soon as we know more about it, you know, what ship, how you're going to get your currency and everything. We'll be sure to let you guys know.
And the fact that, remember, they have to go through Sony and Microsoft. Instead, they can't just bring it onto the game. They have to go through them first, and then bring it to the game. So they might have said, "Don't bring it yet. Bring it later."
That and the consoles have a different anniversary than the PC.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
Yes.
So, in some cases, console players, I know it sucks. Believe me, we get it. Because we hate it when stuff gets delayed on PC as well. But sometimes delays, especially since they're going through other companies now, are probably going to happen at some point. They definitely suck when they do happen. But I'm sure you guys would rather them put it off just a little bit longer and everything be fixed, ready to go, than for them to just toss something out there and it backfire in their face big time and waste all of your all's time as well.
But like Kirby said, it's a different anniversary date. So 9 times out of 10, that is probably why they took it off.
Indeed.
Yep.
But, anyways, as far as bugs go, there's not really a lot I had this week and everything. I'm trying to get caught up on bug reports, everything.
Blasphemy.
Well, I'll put it this way.
I know, right?
Not too many I can talk about, anyway. Everything. I know that seems like a cop-out, but there is some bugs
NDA.
from time to time that I can't really talk about for various reasons. Everything, but rest assured, we do read the bug reports that we get sent. Everything. We do, as far as the bug hunters go, read everything that we can on the forums that you guys submit and everything. I'm sure the devs do too. But one in particular that I actually can talk about was a rather nasty glitch that happened in the new Of Signs and Portents. And this actually affected a fleet member of mine, KB. And I felt sorry for the poor girl, but it glitched out, and on the ground portion, where you have to defend Camargue while she's shutting down the consoles, it glitched out, and the enemies never stopped spawning, and the final console would not shut down. So she was pretty much caught in an infinite combat wave, and it was just a pain in the rear end. Now, if that occurs, the only way that we found is to beam out of the mission and beam back in and everything, so you're probably going to lose a little bit of progress, but, you know, we are getting, I do have a report in on that and everything, so hopefully they'll get a fix to that pretty soon. Another bug actually concerns the anniversary event, and this concerns the Andoria ground. There is one particular spawn of the Omega that it can send you after for the daily event that will actually appear on top of a mountain. Now, I don't know why it's there, except that it's bugged out, but That node is unobtainable, and as such, obviously, that is an issue. I did turn a report in on that. Now, a workaround for you guys is you can swap instances, or you can beam up and back down, and that should change the location to something you can actually get to. But that's two of the bigger bugs that I have this week and everything. But that's pretty much everything for the Buggy Corner this week. But moving along, we have our final segment of the evening, which is Teacher's Corner with TeacherKirby and using the STO Academy Skill Planner.
Yes.
So take it away, teacher.
Well, one of the things that we all notice as we help people or have people have questions, well, how can you help me with my build? One of the things we notice is a lot of them don't know how to use the STO Academy Skill Planner. I mean, you just saw Darkblade using it for the Vesta budget build request that we did. And I cannot say enough how useful a tool this is. And I know that the guys that run it are players just like us, and they do this in their free time. So kudos to those players. Thank you very much, guys, because this is a phenomenal tool, but only if you use it. And a lot of people that we come across say, well, I don't know how to use it. It's confusing, or I can't get it to do this. I don't know how to get my weapon in there, blah, blah, blah. So I went over it and showed the ins and outs of how to use the STO Academy Skill Planner. So definitely should be a helpful video. And when people come to you and you got to send them, you got to have them make a build, and they go, well, I don't know how, you can definitely send them to this video. Thoughts?
Definitely needed since the update, because I know quite a bit of stuff on the planner changed.
Yes, it did.
Especially the skills and everything.
Definitely did.
So, any thoughts there, Neela?
Yeah, just with the new update, like when I was first going through it, I'm like, okay, where is this tab? Where's this button? For me, I was like, where is, like, how to show what traits? For the life of me, I could not find where the traits were.
Mm-hmm. And it happens so often that you get people that will put in all the gear on their ship, and then they won't put in their bridge officer skills.
Or their traits.
Because they don't realize that they have to go across the top to find the bridge officer skill. It didn't have an option for it. It's like, yeah, it did. Yeah, they don't realize that you got to go across the top, and it can be quite unnerving if you've never done it before. So this should help people to figure it all out.
Most definitely. And that is one thing we do want to say. I mean, we don't mind helping people. That's part of why we're here, is to help you guys out, get information out there, help with a build if we're able to, and everything. We do ask that you would use the Academy, because that gives us a lot of information, like you saw with the budget build that we did a minute ago, and
Definitely.
I'm sure Teacher explained in the video. The more you fill out, the more you help us to help you, because the more you fill out, the more we can see of your weapons, your traits, your skills, your rep abilities, all that good stuff. That's the more information we have to work with to try to pinpoint any possible issues and everything. And it could be something really simple. It could just be a thing as, oh, well, you don't have points in this skill, and you could drop a couple points from here and move them to there, and you could be perfectly fine. And depending on what you're doing, you might want to do a complete overhaul, but the more information we have, the better to work with. But and to answer a bit of a question in chat about what happened to Scott, Boss Man's still around. He's been working a bit more behind the scenes and everything, but he still does pop in from time to time occasionally. But anyways, that's pretty much what we have for the show this week, guys. Any closing thoughts from our panel?
Yes, I think Neela put this in, but we wish Laughing Trendy good luck in all future things. She will be missed by the community.
Absolutely. I know she's actually the one that recruited me to the Bug Hunters and actually got the initiative going, so she will most definitely be missed. Everything.
Very much so.
And we do, if you do happen to see this Trendy, we wish you well and everything, whatnot. So. But anyways, guys, that's what we have as far as the show for this week. We hope you've enjoyed the show, found everything to be of some use to you and everything. But we'll have all this stuff up in the show notes for you guys so you can check that out, everything and whatnot. Like I say, if you do see any bugs or anything, please report those. That is where most of the Bug Hunter reports come from and everything, and where a lot of the dev reports come from as well. If you have a budget build that you want us to try to do, feel free to let us know. If there's something that you want Teacher to go over in her Teacher's Corners, I'm sure she doesn't mind doing that either.
Yep, let me know.
But like I say, we're here to help you guys, everything. But we hope you found the information of use. We hope you enjoyed the show, and we hope you will tune in again next week for even more shenanigans and everything. And hopefully we'll be on time next week, and my internet doesn't decide to be that guy, if y'all catch my drift. But anyways, folks, this is the Pilot Review Show, and we're signing off.
Roger, Dodger.